Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Fung. In this video, I'm going to go and try the fasting mimicking diet, and I'll tell you my thoughts, and also I'm going to show you what the program actually looks like so you can decide for yourself. And it's coming right up. Before we get started, this video is not sponsored, but I am a small investor in L-Nutra, the company that makes the fasting mimicking diet. However, when I mean small, I mean I own less than 0.001% of the company, and my investment in it is far less than my investment, for example, in this pudgy penguin, which by about a factor of 100 times. So it's a small investment. So what is the fasting mimicking diet? So I started talking about fasting in 2014. I started blogging about it, and really one of the few people that was also in that space, because there were very few people talking about fasting, was a longevity researcher by the name of Dr. Longo. And in California, he had done a lot of basic research into insulin and nutrient sensors and so on, and started toying with the idea of fasting as a pro-longevity agent. And he had great results. However, he thought that, well, hey, 5 days is really a lot to ask, so how are we going to make it easier for people to do this fasting? And the idea was to give a little bit of food, but to scientifically develop the program so that you're not activating all the normal pathways when you eat. So our body has nutrient sensors, and we've talked about those before, things like insulin and things like mTOR. So these are hormones in our body that are released when certain nutrients come in. So if you eat carbohydrates, well, your glucose goes up and your insulin goes up. So the insulin tells the rest of the body that, hey, carbohydrates are coming in. When you eat proteins, the body releases mTOR, and the mTOR is another signal that nutrients are on its way in. And what it does, of course, is it activates the growth pathways so you can rebuild proteins. When those pathways are shut down, such as during fasting, well, your body goes into this more regenerative sort of repair mode and not growth. You actually want to shut things down because there's no nutrients coming in. And doing it periodically can be very beneficial. It's a cycle. You don't want all growth and you don't want all fasting, for example. So that cycle is very beneficial. If you have cells that are overactive, for example, an overactive immune system, well, maybe that sort of fasting pathway may be very beneficial for diseases such as Alzheimer's or cancer, or maybe all these other things. And that's where this fasting mimicking diet came from. So it's not a full water only fast, but because it gives you food that is low in terms of activating these nutrient sensors, that is low in refined carbohydrates, it's also plant-based, and very low in protein, it's not going to tell your body to sort of activate it. And that's how the science of that works. I must admit that I didn't think much of this approach until recently. I thought, well, if you're going to fast, well, you can just fast. But I sort of changed my mind for a few reasons, but mostly because of the science. And to their credit, the fasting mimicking diet sponsored a whole lot of research through top tier universities showing the benefits of this approach. The studies trump everything else. No matter what I thought about it, I didn't have proof that this approach didn't work, but they did. And I've gone through some of the studies in diabetes and weight loss and cancer and neurologic diseases, in chronic kidney disease. There's been so many studies now that they've done which have shown the benefits of it. But it turns out that I think that there's a bit more benefit in addition to all the science. Having tried it, it made me realize that the way it's structured can be very, very useful because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Having talked to a lot of people about fasting, what I do is I recommend it, I tell them, what to watch and give them all this education. But then when they get home, they're often like, well, what do I do? How long do I do it? Does this break my fast? They have all these questions. And the beauty of this sort of approach is that there's a very structured program to follow. It says, eat this, and then that's it. The next day, eat this, and so on. And some people really appreciate that. So the science is number one, the structure is number two. Number three, it actually makes the extended fasting a lot easier. And I've done 5-day fast, just water only. And while it's not difficult, it's not easy either. Especially on days 3 and 4, I find myself thinking about food a lot. Whereas with the fasting mimicking diet, I actually had a lot less of that. Having taken a little bit of calories in the meals that they gave me, it really made things a lot easier. Number 4, it actually tastes pretty good. A lot of it is soup-based, so you get sort of 2 soups in a day, and it actually tastes pretty good. Number 5, it's actually less intrusive than a water-only fast, and this is for people who are maybe eating with their family on a regular basis. Instead of having to just sit there at the dinner table and not eat anything but look at all the food, you have a little bit of your own food to eat. Yes, it's not as good as participating fully in the meal, but it actually makes it a lot easier. And number 6, maybe it's a little less stressful, because remember that fasting is a stress on the body. And that's not a bad thing. Exercise is also a stress on the body, but it's a little less stressful. So a lot of people may find that easier. One of the things which I think is the major minus is really the cost. It's not a cheap program, but you have to remember that you're taking the place of 5 full days of food. So you are going to save a little bit on that as you get these other things. And of course, that's the major downside to it. There really are not many other downsides in that it's a natural food-based therapy, so there's not the same sort of side effects you might see with medications or surgery or anything like that. The second thing is that some of it is ultra processed, although having looked at the ingredients, it tends to be a lot better than a lot of the other things that you get sometimes. They have a lot of sort of natural ingredients, nuts and plant-based foods, so really a very good structure for that. So those are the pluses and the minuses. I'll take you through what it looks like and my thoughts as it goes. So this is how the Prolon comes, and it comes in a big box, and this contains all the food that you need for the next 5 days. As you open it up, you can see that there's instructions as to what you're supposed to eat on a regular basis. There's a little 5-day program, and each of the days is clearly labeled 1 to 5 so that you can follow along very easily. So very, very organized and well structured. And you see that they give you what to eat at breakfast, what to eat at lunch, what to eat at dinner, for example. So very, very simple to follow this structure. So I've laid out all the things that you find on day 1, and it seems like quite a lot here, but it's not as much as you think. There's a few packets of tea, for example. There's some vitamins, some essential oils, and then 2 soups, and as well as some fasting bars. And these bars are sort of a meal replacement in that you take it with your meal. Some of the days you'll also have a bit of a dessert called a Choco Crisp. And there's quite a bit to eat here, especially on the first day. It's a little bit more, and that's meant to ease you into your fast, to sort of transition you from the higher calories. And here's the 5-day program. Up front, you can see that there's a box that you can just easily take out, and everything is contained for that first day. The soups are varied, so there's a couple of different things. There's also some crackers that you can use, all plant-based, almond and kale in that case. The fasting mimicking bars are there, and there's also, on some of the days, you'll also have some olives. And surprisingly, the olives are quite a treat. The little bit of saltiness I actually found extremely useful during the fast. Normally, we tell our patients to try to have more, but sometimes it's hard to get that salt. So the olives actually provide it in a very tasty sort of way. In addition, there's also the essential oils and the multivitamins.